Well, welcome to Women on Wealth. And the topic today is to teach savings to young kids. And this is certainly near and dear to my heart, not only as a parent, but a financial advisor that is concerned with financial literacy in general and globally. And I actually met Sam, our guest, Sam Renick, our guest today, from the research that I've been doing on a book around financial literacy for girls. So Sam, first, welcome to Women on Wealth.
Thank you, Julina. Sammy Rabbit to be with you and all the people out there in Julina land.
I love your excitement, and I can see it when I've done the research with everything you do. So let me give the audience a little bit of a background on you. You have dedicated to empowering kids' dreams and improving children's financial literacy through the development of great habits and strategic life skills. You are the driving force behind Sammy Rabbit and the Money School, which we're going to talk about. You have read and sung to over 250,000 children around the world, encouraging them to get into the habit of saving money. So welcome again, Sam. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And first of all, everyone has a story. So let's start with your story and how you got into what you've been doing now for over 15 years.
Wow. Well, thanks again, Julina. For me, this is my third career and first entrepreneurial venture. I was actually in my second career in financial services, was not really enjoying it for the most part, with the exception of, conversations I'd have with family people. And typically at that time, I was talking to people roughly between 30 and let's say 50, which is, I was around 35 or 36 at that time. And largely what they were sharing with me was their regret and despair for not starting to save or invest earlier and not learning about it when they were kids, which was the opposite of my experience, which now I look at as almost miraculous because, we were living at what I like to call the upper poverty line. We had 7 people, including my grandmother, jammed into one house with one bathroom, one phone, but that's how a lot of people were doing it back at that time. And probably still many are, today. And we had, all the basic stuff we needed, food to eat, a lot of bologna and cheese sandwiches. that was a common everyday thing. And then, we had clothes and a place to sleep. But one of the things, after hearing all these conversations, it got me reflecting on why, when I was 21 and started my first professional job, did I start paying myself first and get, on what I'll call the automatic path to, systematic, advanced financial wellness, stability, security, and all the things everybody likes to, call it. And it's because my father primarily, but my mother and my grandmother as well, they used to talk to us about money as kids. They used to talk to us a lot about learning it, why they couldn't give it to us.
Yeah.
No was a big word in our family. But, one of the brilliant things, I think it was brilliant now, that my dad used to tell us that, we bought into was he said, Sam, you can have anything you want if you're willing to work for it. Are you willing to work for it? And so, interestingly enough, back then, say a soda was maybe a dime. So I'd ask him for a dime for a soda, and he'd say, no, we don't have money for that. But if I was going to mow a lawn or wash my aunt's car, we'd find a dime or $1 to get the soap, and my dad would be out there working with us, washing the cars, cutting the lawns, and all of that kind of stuff. And so, he was from the Midwest. I'm a native Angelino. He used to talk about, this thing like Kansas common sense or Midwest common sense. I'm just a kid. I thought everybody had this common sense thing. It wasn't until, you fast forward in my mid 30s and I'm talking to people and I'm like, my goodness, they're not saving, they're not investing. Why aren't they, doing this? And I was just like, I was stunned. I was floored because even though I was doing it myself, I didn't have any perspective on what other people were doing. And especially here in LA, I always assumed I was behind because everybody's driving a Beamer they don't own and whatnot.
Right.
And I never put my money into new cars. I wanted to own stocks and things like that. And as I said, I think, it was amazing given the area I grew up in, although there were a few other families who had similar thinking. There's this one man, I didn't realize it. You'd think, boy, oh my God, this guy needs help. Let's get him some support. He owned half the real estate in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
Millionaire next door.
So, one day what happened, Julina, I was with this little boutique firm, and they'd bring in these, wholesalers for mutual funds and insurance. I was big on, I wanted to encourage people to save and invest. At that time, I wasn't really that big on, insurance. Not that I'm big on it now, but I do see the need for it in an overall, financial plan, particularly if you have kids or people are dependent on your income. But this very seasoned, and they were all seasoned, these wholesalers that would come in, and they were great storytellers. He brought in this bubble blower. And I'm like, what is he up to?
That's interesting.
Well, he was trying to encourage us to do something I'm happy to say I was already doing, and that was open college savings accounts. And basically his philosophy was, do some relationship selling and let the people know you're in it for the long haul, which at that time I was. And so that resonated with me, and it really got me thinking about all the stuff I just shared with you. And I thought, you know what? Maybe there's something that I can do to help in this area to try and get people started sooner and having these conversations. At that time, I hadn't done a lot of outside research, but I started doing more of that and realized, people, have difficulty talking about money for, all kinds of reasons. My dad didn't have that problem. All right. He was a very reality-based person. So he just confronted things, head on. So anyways, when I started diving into this, and this was over a 6-month or 1-year period, I really started thinking about if I could only share one message with an adult or a kid that was actionable, what would it be that could have an impact on their life? And I just thought from my own standpoint, and I'm not a genius investor or genius anything financial, but I think I have a good mastery of the basics. I thought, what really helped me was paying myself first, getting on an automatic saving and investing program. That's what I want to share with people. And then when I started thinking about, kids who, let's say we're dealing with young kids for the most part, let's say 10 and under, they're not getting paid. Maybe they're getting an allowance, but they're not getting paid. So I kind of translated that message into saving is a great habit. We're a very habit formation based company enterprise. And so in my mind, that was the equivalent of paying yourself first. If you create this routine and this cycle, this repetitive cycle, that's basically what you're doing. It's a proven, time-tested recipe. It may not make you rich overnight, but it's very predictable. It's going to systematically advance your financial security, independence, wealth, and all of that stuff. And so that's kind of what got me started. And then just a certain, let's say, audacity that I could do something about this.
Absolutely.
Which, let me say, the system has beaten me down a bit, but and then I once I started getting into it a little bit, I started really thinking this is my purpose to be here. It was very gratifying, rewarding. And then I saw that even though there wasn't any, and there's still, the income is like all over the board.
Welcome to being an entrepreneur.
welcome to being an entrepreneur. I think it is even a little bit, maybe possibly more difficult, although it's just difficult regardless of what you're doing, but in this education space, because there's a lot of, some people think you should get it for free. Some people pay. There's all this stuff. You really need to have a lot of sales and marketing really at the end of the day. But I found my energy was constantly being refueled. And so I found a tremendous purpose. And I said, hey, listen, most of my life, I've lived happily on peanut butter and jelly. I can do that again.
Well, I think of everyone I have met in the financial industry, and it's been many of them over my 25-year career. You have some of the most energy that I have found. So it's one of the things that I wanted to bring you on for. So thank you, Sam. And
Welcome.
from what I'm hearing from your story, your habit was created very early. And I agree with you because I also experienced some of those habits at an early age and didn't realize myself that we're probably one of the minorities as adults. I really didn't notice it until I became a financial advisor myself and started having these conversations. If for anyone that's listening and has heard my previous podcast, you are not the first person to come on and explain how important saving and investing is. I just think what's unique to you is we're now talking about the importance of starting at a very young age. And you mentioned primarily under the age of 10. Why do you think it's so early to start that young? Because that's not what the educational system does.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah. That's a whole other podcast, but that's okay.
Well, I do want to make one short note on that, when I started, researching this a bit, what the so-called experts thought related to kids and money, and these are school experts and people that I think are in the ivory tower and theorize about all this stuff. They thought like developmentally, like fourth grade is the right the right age. And now what like research is showing, and this is just in general, is that kids may be learning as early as in the womb. And so they're picking up on, feelings, attitudes, sounds. And when you think about it, let's say from a practical standpoint, when a baby is birthed, what they're doing is they're seeing and hearing everything, and they're kind of absorbing it. They may not be able to articulate what the heck is happening, but as it relates to money, what seems to happen somewhere around 3 to 5 is they formulate these words: "Mommy, give me that."
Yeah.
Or "I want this," which in my mind is a common sense sign that there's been a lot of this. If you think of it like a computer, there's been a lot of coding and programming, and I think primarily around feelings and attitudes. Even as adults, there's very little thinking going on. And I mean, that's another surprise when you get into the research. It was surprising to me, but it makes a lot of sense, is that most people make decisions based on feelings, not on weighing out pros and cons and say comparison shopping and all these different different things. That's man, that it takes work. That's one part of it, but then it usually may lead you to conclude that you're not able to do certain things, and that takes a certain, let's say, discipline. Which
Sure.
here's a big message, and this is something I just picked up as a result of diving into this area. Because let me just say, really, what I wanted to talk to people about doing was starting automatic investing programs. I like investing a lot more than say saving. But as I dove deeper and deeper into this, one of the things I came across was this quote, and it just made so much sense to me after, I don't know if it was 3 years I was into this and started getting more experience, but it was from this guy, T.T. Forrester. And, he was some kind of a conservative, he wasn't a money guy, conservationist. And,
Okay.
and so he said something to the effect that saving is an education in itself. It fosters every virtue. And I'll tell you one of the big ones, and it has nothing to do with money, that it teaches kids, and that's how to delay gratification. And in my opinion, that is the mother skill of all success. So it doesn't matter what area you go into, people who understand how to, invest, and I mean invest in a broad sense, invest in their careers, invest in their education, invest in themselves, invest their money, that requires some discipline, delayed gratification. Well, that's what saving does. It asks you to wait for something possibly better. Also, I mean, saving helps us obviously with the emergencies to be, better prepared, maybe not fully prepared, but better prepared. But it also helps us, with opportunities, and to, as Sammy the Rabbit says, to get what we want and what we need when we want and need it.
Yes.
That's a big payoff. And so look, so kids are learning. That's one thing. So then it becomes a
Question's
question.
what?
Okay, the question is what and who's teaching them. All right. So what parents may or may not realize is, like, the topic of money, it's unavoidable for kids not to pick up cues and clues related to money, whether you think you're talking about, what they think, oh, I'm not teaching them about money, when they're saying, oh my goodness, we can't pay the rent, or do we have money for this or that? Okay, those are all money conversations. And typically the way people go about it, I mean, first of all, it's all consumer oriented. So if you ask the average kid, and this might be 19 out of 20, they're going to think money is just about spending. Well, it is about spending, and you're going to do better if you do smart spending, right? Yeah. but it has other purposes and values, and that is not in the conversation anywhere. But anyways, kids are learning. So it's a question of what are they learning and who's going to be teaching them primarily. Now, it turns out, it's also unavoidable that they're going to have a variety of voices going after them. But I think parents want to be one of them. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In my mind, I know in our house that's my mom and dad. They wanted to be the primary influencers, take charge of all conversations, and I don't know if impart might be a better word, their thinking and their values to the best of their ability. Now, I'm going to say, I feel really fortunate that I think my parents directionally were largely sending us in the right area. They weren't perfect by any means, but they stepped up to that direction, guidance, parenting.
That's the most important thing.
Oh, okay, I think so. Okay,
yeah.
So you may be sending them messages and clues, and if you're not in charge of it, it's probably leading them in the wrong direction as it relates to money. But then secondly, we live in this hyper consumer, consume now, consume more than you can, and don't even worry about paying it. All right, very different than when I grew up. Okay,
Yeah.
You couldn't even, I mean, we're such a great sell society, you can qualify for credit without income. Isn't that what a country? But is it good? Is it good for your own financial health and well-being? Is it good if one day you want to own a home, or if one day you want to own stock, or if one day you want to send your kids to a particular school or buy them this or that, or whatever it is? All right. So man, those messages are coming in from everywhere. Then you have family members, brothers, sisters, peer groups, educators. Okay, I don't know if you've been in an elementary school recently, but man, I'm stunned. Like, if you just did some kind of a study, like how often is the question, like, how do you feel versus what do you think? Man, it's like 18-2 or something.
Yeah.
Not to say, sure, feelings are important, but education, I think what we're trying to teach kids is how to think.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's important too. The other thing, at least that I have found myself, even being in the industry, I catch myself all the time with my girls. We're so busy, we're multitasking. And sometimes they ask us a question that's, can you give me money for this? And you catch yourself just doing it just so that you can move on and get on to the next task, not realizing what the longer implications are. My husband catches me doing it, and I'm trying really hard to pull myself back. But I think, to your point, with the world that we live in, and then you put social media on top of it, and advertising, it's being thrown at us in a lot of different directions.
It is. Now, here's another point. So the kids are learning. You want to be alert to that. They're
They're observing.
Well, that's part of the learning. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're visually, they're observing. Even a baby in a high chair, they're watching and they're hearing. That's primarily how they're learning. All right, at that phase. And so, but here's the other thing that some research is showing. I tend to believe it's true, just based on my firsthand experience talking to kids, talking to parents. This kind of thing is that they believe adult money habits are largely set by the age of 8. All right. So what that's telling me is, regardless of all this developmental theorizing or whatever,
Mhm.
the prime time to influence the attitudes, the feelings, and the thinking is between birth and age 8.
Yeah,
you,
and I agree. I
you
agree.
know, and so this is another, like, to me, I mean, look, I think we need financial education, cradle to grave. We need lifelong learning. So it's at all phases. But I just look at, like, in the last 20 years since I've been at what's happening, say, in youth development, most of it is at the high school and college level. Look,
Right.
we need that. But I think that's largely market driven. Okay. They're consumers ready to consume in bigger numbers. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But to me, if you want quote unquote systemic change, you've got to follow the technology model. I see 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds swiping their tablets and doing different things. They're the native learners. All right.
Yeah.
and,
Absolutely.
and that, see, here's some advice I got from a principal. And this was the first time we started with the storybook, by the way. None of this stuff I've ever done before. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
So explain
yeah.
Sammy the Rabbit, if you can, and what you've done
Okay.
as you kind of go into this.
All right. So when I started thinking, this is just initial thinking over 20 years ago. I probably started beginning to think about this in 97, 98, and then formalized, micro enterprise in 2001, right after 9/11. How do you, to me, I kind of adopted the Mary Poppins approach. Let's put some sugar and fun into the message. How do you do that? Okay. We've got this heavy duty, what I think life transforming message, a Warren Buffett like message. I mean, he says save first, then spend. All right. That's what
Absolutely.
that's what we're saying. All right. This is the cornerstone, the foundation of everything. But now, well, how do you deliver it in a way that's palatable to kids of all ages? All right. Even
Yeah.
adults. All right. So I thought, what, we've got to have a character. And me, look, I love reading. I might do it slightly differently, or maybe largely differently now. But I thought this goes into the whole multiple skills thing. I thought from day one, money should be integrated across all subject matter. All right. So don't worry about, oh, we've got to have new separate curriculum. If we get that, fine, it's great. We don't have to wait. All right. So we read stories to kids every day in school, at least, or every 2 days, whatever they're doing now. So just work one into the rotation that's about money. That might be a nice thing. All right. I mean, this is
Sure.
another fascinating thing. If you look at children's storybooks, say, like, they come across the word save, it probably is save like rescue, okay, related to a prince or a princess. Now, let's just say somehow they come across the word save in the context of money. It's probably spend to save some money so you can spend some more, not save, store, accumulate, build financial security and wealth. I mean, so the man, boy,
Interesting.
things are really stacked up. I don't think it's like this purposeful thing. It's just, look, we're in a market driven, consumer oriented society, and we're great sales people, which is one of the reasons why we're a leader in the world in a variety of areas.
Yeah.
And people, let's say, there's been a lot of change. Say, if you went back even 100 years ago, really is not that long of a time, even though it seems like it does. Look, 99% of America was poor. Okay, we were in the Depression and all of this stuff, and we're coming out of a farming based economy. Okay. I mean, the progress we've made in the last 100 years has just been unreal. And
Yeah.
now what's happening now in the last, say, 10 years is that progress is happening much more rapidly, like with the cell phone, chat GPT, the ability, these chips that they go through all this data, in a second or whatever.
Yeah.
That took us, hundreds of thousands of years to, accumulate and read and whatever. I mean, it's just happening at light speed. So you got the idea that kids are learning, and you've got the habits. And what this principal told me, she said, and this was the first time we went out to read Sammy the Rabbit, the book, and I was just doing a test reading, right? And she pulled me aside. She said, I really like what you're doing. Something you want to know is one of the biggest mistakes parents make is they underestimate kids' ability to grasp concepts. She said, if you could explain it to them, they will get it. They may not be able to give you like this whole, Harvard master articulation of it, but they will get it. And then when you think about education is a process, And mastery requires repetition. So look, you're planting these seeds, don't have all these grand expectations. It's a process. You got to get in there, take charge of it, start slowly talking about it at what you deem is appropriate based on your values and all of that stuff. And then, you hit on something earlier. Give yourself permission to make mistakes. What I loved about what you shared was you're giving your best effort. Your best effort is different. You know what? Sometimes you have to just say no, or not now, or move on.
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect in every moment. Don't let that derail you. Keep battling, keep going out there, keep putting in the effort as you're able to. There are a lot of demands on parents, but nothing is more important than parenting.
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. And can you talk about you mentioned in the beginning the importance of creating a money habit and the
Yes.
importance. So I know saving is your biggest theme. Can you talk a
That's
little
our
bit?
number one. Yes.
Yeah. And do you focus on other themes based off of that, or is it just the
Yes.
importance
Oh
of
yeah.
saving?
Yeah. No. Okay. Okay. I'm going to bang home saving even for people who are investing, people who are, but look, it's like a video game. It has levels. And so
Sure.
to me, saving is a springboard. One of the things that happens if you start saving, eventually you start asking, well, where can I earn more money? and that's what I mean by a springboard. I'll tell you what I noticed, when I was talking to people, let's say 10 or 15% of them, these are adults when I was doing financial services. Let's say they had been lifelong savers or investors. They looked at money differently. All right.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. These are these unexpected. I guess if you're like, say, if you're like me, you're diving into the process, the psychology of it. You understand these things. But if you're not into it every day, which most people aren't, and I'm constantly learning new things, you can see that it's a springboard, and that how, like, say, all of a sudden, this is why we have a dream big theme. It's like,
Okay.
and so a question, well, it's your dream, all right, whatever it is. And we don't focus so much on, is it like, the right dream, the wrong dream. Have a dream that you're willing. Now it leads to the question, are you willing to work to make that dream come true? And part of the work you might do is you might start saving some of your money or spending a little smarter, so you're better prepared and positioned to make your dream come true. That's what happens in our book, Sammy's Big Dream. Sammy's big dream in the book, Sammy's Big Dream is he wants to ride the world's first outer space roller coaster. And his class wins this field trip to do just that, but it's going to cost $300. So his first plan, which is one of the things we encourage kids to do, everything with us is planning is a great habit. All right. Investing is a great habit. Earning is a great habit. So his big thought is, hey, I'm going to run home. It's probably every kid's thought, and ask my parents. And so his mom and dad are like, you know what? We know this is important to you, and here's what we're willing to do. If you're able to earn and save half the money, we'll match the other half of the money. And his brother is kind of the antagonist in the story. And he's like, oh, you'll never be able to do that. You'll never be able to save $150, cost $300, right? And he goes, well, you know what? I don't have to save and earn and save $150. I already have $50 in my savings account. All right. So it's easier. All right.
It's planning it out.
Okay. It's plan. Give your pennies a purpose, Julina. That's where it starts. So you see, you don't have to have a lot of money to save. And let me just say, there isn't any reason kids can't save. They don't have expenses. All right. So that's when you want to start shaping these feelings and attitudes and thinking. And, you just don't know when they might really kick in. Maybe they'll kick in right away. Maybe it'll be at 28. Maybe it'll be at 40. I know the things my parents told me, they're past now, but man, they are stuck in my head.
Absolutely. Whether you want them to be stuck or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's why we have to be so thoughtful about what experience we're giving our kids.
Yes. The more thoughtful, the better. Okay. It's again, it's not all, but let me just say this also. You want, in my mind, you want to start develop. It's almost like a play.
Yeah.
You start developing a script, and you could do it slowly. These are the things that I want to say, and then you try to start saying them, and try to try saying them a little more versus a little less.
Yes.
Sometimes it's not perfect. You just keep building on it. That's what habit formation is, all about. You fall off your bike, get back on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And you have a theory, Sam, that if you get them when you're young, it that message, that activity, that theme will spread throughout the family. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, well, here's the thing, especially like with elementary school kids, they still talk to their parents. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these little kids, they come home from school, what did I learn today? I learned about, I have a dream, or whatever. I learned a little bit about money, or did you know this, or that. And so, it becomes a conversation. One of the things, I encourage parents to do is create a culture of saving, good money management. Giving is a part of that, smart spending. Maybe have a family talk once a month. I mean, you should be talking about this a little bit every day. 1 minute, 1 minute, 3 minutes, you're filling up your gas, or you're going shopping, you make a list. There's all these things, daily life, that you can do, but once a month, or whatever you want, once a week, have a little powwow. All right. And so we used to have, and I encourage every family to not only have piggy banks or savings jars for their kids in their room, but have a family one.
Okay.
All right. This might be, so it can create conversation, like, oh, what are we going to do with this money? Should we take a trip? Should we do this? If we're going to take a trip, let's, man, what do we want to do?
Yeah.
How much money will we have to spend? Oh, should we go to the museum, or should we go out to eat? Should we make our own sandwiches so we have more to do this? Okay. So, all right. So there you go.
That's a great idea.
Okay. My dad, we had this huge jar. I won't say what it was for, but he repurposed it. And we had all these nickels and dimes and quarters. This is back in the 60s, but mainly pennies and nickels and dimes. But we'd roll it out on the carpet. We'd have guessing games. How much is in there? This and that.
Oh, wow.
We'd sort it. We'd count it. All of these things that, they're seeds. And in his system, let's say, now I don't know that he had all this planned out. All right. But they kind of work together, say, with this, are you willing to work for this? All of these, they seem to, and then my goodness, the redundancy, the mastery. Then what you want, I think what you want to do is then, because there is a kind of a law of diminishing returns, but I think as parents, you got to keep doing this if you're able to, freshen up your message every now and then, but bring in these outside voices that support your thinking and messaging. Maybe it's Sammy the Rabbit, maybe it's someone else, maybe it's the Girl Scouts, maybe it's the Boy Scouts, maybe it's a faith-based organization.
Sure.
The more you can get this into alignment, and we all need this support, because from the moment we wake up, and I mean, probably even in our dreams, we're probably thinking about something that relates to consuming. And that, look, that's okay, as long as it turns out to be, this is what you really want. You're not mortgaging your future to do whatever it is. One of the big things say about wants is, they change.
They change. Yeah.
They change.
Yeah. And that's the importance of the habits.
Okay. So the more we can get into my dad, he's the one who got me onto habits, and whether it's the right thinking or not, I think it is. You hear Ray Dalio, he talks about patterns and cycles. Okay. That's the same. Routines are really important for all of us. Okay. That's what habits are. So, it's like, I was going to say, it's who was the guy, Aristotle, excellence is a habit, essentially. You're doing these same things. There's recipes. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like you find this great food you love, you'll ask the person, well, what's the recipe? Yeah. Well, there's recipes and money as well, but people don't seek them the way they do.
They want the quick solution.
They want the quick.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about the quick solution is quite frequently, and this I think is because of habits, turns out to be disastrous.
Mm.
Okay. Because what people do is they do more of what they were already doing. There's a big distinction between, say, earning or receiving money and managing it.
Yeah.
Okay. different
Sure.
different skills are, and
Yeah.
involved. You're very aware of that. But everybody seems to think, getting their dream is to get this big, huge sum of money. It will solve all of their problems. Usually, for most people, unless they already have good, money habits, it creates
Hmm.
more problems. There's some
Problems.
except more. There's some exceptions, but typically that's by and large what
Yeah.
what happens.
I would agree. So how would you describe the Sammy the Rabbit? How has it evolved over the last, is it 20 years now? I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
said,
it's over 20 years. Let me just
wow.
make one other point. So this is going back to your last question. So look, when you get this conversation going, parents want to become better role models. Most of them, it gets them to thinking about what the heck they're doing,
Mm,
and all. So it has a lot of different effects, not on everyone, but on a surprising amount of people. So
yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of how it helps in a variety of ways.
Great point.
Sammy the Rabbit. Okay, as I said, we started with a book called "It's a Habit." Sammy Rabbit. Hi, my name's Sammy. I know a secret. It's a secret I'll never forget. And the secret is saving is a great habit. And in fact, in that book, we don't even mention money. All right. It's all just
Interesting.
about this. It's all about this idea. Sammy's saving carrots, and he ends up rescuing his family from a big storm that wipes out their savings of carrots. Right. And then
Mhm.
in our second book, which was Sammy's Big Dream, that's where he saves money for this big trip. But we started off with the book. We still have a strong reading strategy, but then we started developing music. Uh, we've created over 25 original songs on money. Anyone can be rich. Don't spend more than you make. Get in the habit. Every kid should listen to Get in the Habit. Every parent. We've sang this song. I've like to say I've sang this song off key all over the world.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay, it is so catchy, but it's also extraordinarily purposeful. Get in
Yeah.
the habit, like Sammy Rabbit, saving money all the time. You can do it. Now get to it. From every dollar, save a dime. You can
Mm,
watch your money grow and grow. It ain't funny when you got no money. A lot of kids love that line. It ain't funny when you got no money. But it engages kids.
yeah.
It brings this opening.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. Now, let me just say that song is less than 2.5 minutes. All right.
But it's amazing what they can, what they can, it's amazing what a tune can do, right? And
It's
how,
okay. It's amazing what a tune can do.
yeah.
Okay. And so this is, when people talk about it, and I don't know how, I mean, maybe it is hard to talk about money. I mean, you read that all the time and all of this stuff. I don't know how rigorous all of this research is, but I do see, I mean, money is a very nuanced subject, and people definitely have strong feelings about it.
Oh,
And I
for
think
sure.
and I think there's reasons why they want to avoid talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's amazing what they will do to avoid it. And it can be, let's say, a dry and dull topic, but I don't think it has to be. All right. In
Yeah.
fact, one of the problems, I think, I've always thought this since day one, that this is not a numbers problem. This is a communication issue. That's the way we've always viewed it. Now, once you start getting into it and you get people hooked, you
Mhm.
start introducing more of the numbers aspect of it. All right. But
Mhm.
I tell kids, look, money's very simple. If you have this much money coming in, make sure you don't have that much money going out.
Right.
That will take you a long way.
Yeah.
All right. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not. Look, when you start getting into derivatives and all that, that's a whole different level. I
Mhm.
I hope you reach that level if you do, or maybe you never do because it's not right for you. But
It's
you're
kind of like
gonna
learning math. It's like you can't learn algebra unless you know how to add and subtract. And it's,
you'll do a lot better. Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, with all the technology and everything that we have, I guess you can
Yeah.
start buying options and puts right now today, whether you know anything about it or not, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But
Mhm.
this goes back to your point. I think as humans, it's very natural to want things right away, this and that. But
Yeah.
this is, look, this is why learning to delay gratification, to self-regulate. I don't know anybody who's successful, who's had sustained success, and that's what we want to create, isn't able to self-regulate, self-constrain.
Yeah.
That's, that's the chicken and chicken soup.
Absolutely. No. So Sam, what are some of the organizations that you have managed to partner with, and how is that growth
All right,
continuing?
here the first and one of the best to this day organizations that took a chance on us and bought into our approach and our thinking was the Air Force Aid Society.
Mm.
Just a tremendous organization, a nonprofit. Each of the military branches has these nonprofits that provides all kinds of different support, usually of financial nature, to the various branches of the military, usually made up of former military members. The Air Force, they tend to be a little more they'll test things out a bit more. Usually,
Okay.
that's the way they think. So they were already doing a lot of financial education, not at the elementary level. But one of the problems that they faced is that, especially when the members are deployed, all of
Mm.
these problems arise at home. And so it could be, an oil change, it could be babysitting, whatever it is. So they were really big on this idea. We want to have a lot of strong programs for our parents and our
Yeah.
families, and all these things involve money. So let's give it a shot. And as the person, I didn't have. I like to tell people I didn't bring any experience to any of this. So I certainly didn't have any marketing experience. I still have only limited marketing experience. But the person who, he said, we're going to try it out. And at that time, we were largely doing, we had a service-based model, largely doing in-person appearances. He said, we'll send you to 6 bases if they want you. He said, we're a nonprofit. We're not a part of the government military operation, but we have relationships on every base. We do programs. We will pay for it. So that will take down some of the barriers, but they have to approve it. And he said, we'll test you out after 6. And if it's serving the families, we will, over the next 4 years, we'll send you to every air base around the world who wants you. Okay.
Wow.
And then he said, but if it doesn't work out, you will be done. it was very, anyways, after 2, the response was so phenomenal. They said, hey, we're going to roll this out. And then unbeknownst to me, he, and I guess all the agencies do this on a quarterly basis, they'd give briefings to the Pentagon about how they're helping military families. Well, he
Wow.
incorporated Sammy the Rabbit into his briefing. And one day, this was a couple years down the road, I got a call from the Pentagon. I still never forgotten this. I said, this is the Pentagon. This is,
Wow.
and and so this was back in, like, I don't know, 2006 or 5, somewhere around. They were doing these, they had a financial readiness initiative. It was probably the best one in the world at that time. And so they were going to every base, Army, Navy, around the world. You had people like Susie Orman, and they would hold a day of workshops. And the way these Army and Air Force bases are organized, they're like little cities. So on all of them, they all have a family readiness center where they do career guidance. And they've got other ongoing financial education programs. But this was like, all right, a big day to talk about, money with all these personal finance experts. And so they had programs for not only the members and the adults, their spouses, but they had them for the high school students, the middle school students. And the guy told me, he said, for the elementary students, we're going to have Sammy the Rabbit, right? And I said, that's right.
Oh, that's amazing. That
That
is
was
a fascinating story.
Yeah. So boy, that was one of our big partners. We partnered for a little while with the University of Maryland. There was a very visionary professor there who, at the time, this is like 2006 or 7, she was a part of their extension. In the extensions, they had the family consumer sciences. So they're very interested in bringing any research that university finds and then taking it out to the communities through workshops, classes, whatever it is. So her area was in, what used to be home economics and that type of a
Okay.
And she was like, "Oh my goodness, I've never seen an approach like this with stories and music and appearances." And so we went out there for over 2 years, and they did
Mm,
this pre and post, and we went for like a week at a time, and we'd hit like 3 or 4 schools a day, and evening workshops with the parents. In fact, they came up with an idea, parents as wealth coaches, that to me, that still is an outstanding blueprint if
mm,
if you're serious about bringing financial literacy to parents and communities and stuff like that. So that was another big partner who we're now, fast forward. We've had a variety of them over the years. Many.
wow.
One of the best things about this whole thing is the wonderful people you
Yeah.
meet. And right now we're working with United Way, 3 of them here in California, and in fact, one of them has kind of a similar approach to this University of Maryland that I was sharing. This is the one in Santa Barbara. Big shout out to Eddie Taylor and Rick London. They're one's in Santa Barbara, and his partners in San Luis Obispo. But they're offering the kids our online money school. They're providing them, and these are low income kids. They're providing them in person financial education that they're leading. Then they're getting matching savings accounts. So if they start saving, I think it's Coast Federal Credit Union will match up to a certain point. They're getting storybooks. They're also partnered with the Dolly Parton Foundation. So
Mm,
books and homes, especially low income homes, they don't have enough. So they're getting books. And then the other thing that they're doing, which I think is excellent, is they've got a text messaging program. See, this is another component
wow.
that is needed if you're serious about it, is that you've got to sustain and keep the conversation going. And so the
Yep.
so versus like, people's expectations are just way out of proportion. There's no silver bullets. All right. Now
No.
that isn't to say that people might have a transformational moment or aha moment or whatever. It's a process, and you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. What we need to be trying to do is build these sustainable models. To do that, massive investment is required. Okay. And I don't
Sure.
mean necessarily in schools. Schools can be a great, maybe a great
Mm,
point of an additional point of distribution. All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know that maybe they will end up being great educators of finance. I'm not sure, say offhand, why we would expect them to do any better with money than, let's say, reading or writing, things that they've been doing for hundreds of years. All
Sure. Yeah.
right. But look, with the internet, that's a game changer in terms
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
access and availability to quality financial education at all levels.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of it. May not be
Yeah.
100%, but you can get it. And why I don't understand why people are not telling parents right now today, like, here's where you can get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Since I started, we've been trying to get schools to teach financial education, which means we've lost 3 generations of kids trying to implement that strategy, which ultimately, you know, I for everybody's sake, if it does get approved and all of that stuff, and it has in some states, and then it's slow to get implemented. It's okay. They could have learned more from this, listening to this conversation. All right, So
Yeah,
anyways,
and I think one of the things I learned through my research as well is that every state is different and every state
every state's
prioritizes this
different.
in the school is different. So
Yeah, it is. But here's what I would tell you is this: is schools have failed. They've rejected the financial wellness of children and families for 30 years. All
and you're not
right.
the first speaker on my
Okay.
podcast to say that, just so you know.
All right. But
Yeah.
somehow, and they failed in my mind because they're not teaching the subject. All right. Now, whether they do it well or not, that's a different question. But they've chosen, for whatever their reasons are, maybe they're the right reasons, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it. They don't see it as a priority, but somehow they're the solution to it. It's like,
Sure.
okay, I don't care. You're gonna have to explain that to me. All right.
Yeah.
I don't, I know I'm just an average bear, but I don't get it.
No, and so Sam, you talked a lot about how it's your Sammy the Rabbit has evolved over the years, and What's the
Here-
next step for you? Because I know
or
you're not
it-
done.
yeah, well, here's one other level of in evolvement is we've switched our model
Mhm.
from largely a service appearance based model, which we're still happy to do, to more of a DIY, do it yourself. We've created curriculum. Now we've got this online school, a web based and driven model that parents can do at home, teachers, after school programs, United
Great.
Way. The way we approach it's not hard. You could start
Yeah.
teaching today.
So individuals can access it, not just schools and educational systems.
Whoever wants it can access it. And everything
Okay.
we're doing, we have a lot of free resources, but but everything we're doing is affordable. All right.
Yeah.
So it's accessible. And we're happy if there's some special circumstance, we're happy to give away some of our premium stuff. Now, let me just say, as an enterprise, and this is whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, you've got to figure out how to generate revenues to be able to sustain and grow your enterprise. So
Sure.
anyways, that's what we're more focused on now, and creating collaborations, with whether it's with an individual financial planner, whether it's with a mom, whether it's with the United Way, but we want to now try and figure out how to scale.
Sure.
Just even that song, Get in the Habit. In my mind, I don't know why every kid in the world is not, they're not given, they have access to it. Now
Yeah.
you need people who are going to put it in front of them. Okay. So what I don't say have right now as an enterprise, and maybe I've been a bad enterprise, a business person, but we don't have the marketing. We're mainly still word of mouth. We are able, it's interesting. I just found out today we were written up in the U.S. World News, and it was actually a financial service professional. I'm connected to them on LinkedIn, but I've never had a conversation with them.
Oh, wow.
They wrote. Now this was very interesting. They wrote an article, the 11 best books on investing for beginners. So it was all like stuff like Richest Man in Babylon and etc. And there was one set of books for kids. And it's interesting. We have something
Wow.
called the Sammy Says series. And this is really
Okay.
for like pre-K. And it's 4 books. Sammy Says Save, Sammy Says Earn, Sammy Says Spend Smart, Sammy Says Give Wisely. They're 32-page workbooks with all these little beginning savings and pictures. Like I like to save money.
Amazing. I mean, none of these investing themes like saving are new, but I love the fact that you're so focused and dedicated to the young age. And I'm 100% with you. I think that's when they need to learn. So I wish you and I had met 5 years ago when my girls were a little bit younger, when they were at the heart of that age. And now I feel like I'm backtracking a little bit. And again, shame on me. I'm in the business, but it's
hard for
to
everybody. Yeah. Whether you're in the business or not. I mean, there's all these different challenges. So, and we all need support and help. That's why it's so important,
agree.
in my mind, to the extent you're able to try and form the friendships around people who have similar values to what you do. I know when I was growing up, and I know it's a little bit different, but I think it's still the same in terms of the idea. But, my aunts and uncles we all lived very close. And then our neighbors, my mother in particular, knew them all. And, it took, as some people say, it took a village.
Sure.
Even though my parents and my grandmother were our main influencers. That is so, even if parents are terrible, kids still largely love them. So they, so there's no denying that, so, but these other things can really be, helpful in winning this battle for hearts and heads and
Absolutely.
feelings and all that stuff.
And it certainly is a battle. So where can people find you and Sammy the Rabbit?
Okay. SammyRabbit.com. SammyRabbit.com.
And your songs are there as well.
Our songs, yes. We're in this new phase. 1.0 of the Money School. So when you go there, you'll see right now it's all based around Sammy's Big Dream. So you'll see all these resources about the storybook Sammy's Big Dream, and kids can even write the story themselves. They can illustrate it. So you've got that. Then section 2, I believe, it's almost like a library, but you just scroll down, is 14 of our 25 songs. So the music's there. It's available to anybody to listen to. But then we have activities. If you want the activities, we have a membership for that. And we blog a lot about all these resources. Excuse me. So even if they don't want to pay for them, they'll get some ideas like, oh, you might do this, like read the lyrics. But you can listen to them. And then we've got something called, we're constantly innovating. Sammy's All-Star Readers. We'd love for you to be one of our All-Star Readers, Julina. This is where we have people volunteer to read other books, the Berenstain Bears or whoever it is that communicates some money planning, goal setting, or dream kind of a lesson. Largely right now, I think we have 12 or 14 stories, and I think they're mainly around money, some element of money.
Okay,
right
great.
now. So there's a wealth, a treasure trove, as we like to say, of resources. And a song, I'll tell you, like Anyone Can Get Rich. High school kids love that. I don't know if you remember Janet Bodner from Kiplinger.
Yeah.
She wrote a big write-up on us back in 2000, and I think it was 3 or something, and that was her favorite song. And
Oh, wow.
it's a great song, nice melody, all of that kind of stuff. And it's basically, it communicates all these ideas, like it's around saving, but it could mean investing, right? But it's basically the earlier you start, the less it takes and the more you'll have.
Yeah. Well, Sam, your passion is incredible. And what's just so amazing to me is that you have found a way to make the conversation around money conversational, which is something I think we really struggle with. And this is not only successful for parents right now, but the fact that you have been able to reach nonprofits and educational systems, it's fascinating to me. So I can't see what you find next. So congratulations on all of that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me and letting me share our story.
Of course. And I will put your website in our show notes as well.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, of course.
Hey, that is so Sammy-rific of you, Julina.